Okay, Chapter 10F, New World Order, New World Religion. Quote, "The fate of mankind, as well as of religion, depends upon the emergence of a new faith in the future. Armed with such a faith, we might find it possible to re-sanctify the earth." Unquote. Al Gore, Earth in the Balance. Quote, "It is the responsibility of each human being today to choose between the force of darkness and the force of light. We must therefore transform our attitudes and adopt a renewed respect for the superior laws of divine nature." Unquote. Maurice Strong, First Secretary General of UNEP, United Nations Environmental Program, which bills itself as the voice for the environment in the United Nations system. Quote, "The religion of the future will include within its own structure the best of science, art, literature, politics, and sociology. Spirituality is not a blind faith about things invisible. It is an inspired use of things known and available." Unquote. Manly P. Hall, 33rd degree Freemasonic prophet. Okay, and I'm going to pause right here just to say it's been quite some time since I've really read this chapter to myself, and I know that religion, things to do with, well, anything in that word represents is many times a divisive and emotionally charged subject. And just keep in mind, I am reading a book. I mean, if you get mad at me, that's fine. I mean, it don't bother me that much. I mean, but just keep in mind, this is reading a book. I mean, I think that, and I lean toward probably everything that's said here. But in the last few years especially, I mean, I just have come to realize how much of just a tiny little speck of dust, for lack of a better picture there, on a floor of, I mean, it's, say, just envision your house and one little tiny speck of dust on your floor that you can't see unless you got right down on your hands and knees to see it. That's about how much of true reality I think that we are even capable of understanding here in this flesh. So I just think there's a lot of possibilities there. It opens up, but it doesn't open up possibilities that means that everybody's right. I mean, I'm not going that route. It's just the ability to comprehend it is very low, and that's just my opinion. But just remember here, I'm reading a book and I'm going to keep reading. Have you ever seen those coexist bumper stickers? The one where the various religious humanist symbols are used to form the word coexist? Well, that conglomeration is the exact gist of the coming New Age One World religion. The proponents of the Great Plan are slowly but surely indoctrinating humanity into believing that, quote, "there are many paths to God," unquote, and that all religions worship the same God, just in different ways. They tell you things like Jesus Christ was just another in a long line of enlightened humans, such as Buddha, or something along those lines, in order to marginalize Jesus, who is the number one enemy of the Great Plan. Jesus Christ is the only one of the supposed enlightened ones across the religious spectrum who warns us of the Great Plan, and the only one prophesied to come back and destroy it. This is because Jesus Christ is the only real deal, being the only one aligned with the true Creator, the Most High God. This is highly significant, and also explains the extreme hatred towards Jesus Christ in particular, and no other, by the proponents of the Great Plan. Trust me, if they hate something, that means it's good for us. What is not good is that there are well-intended Jews and Christians who have been hoodwinked into believing the New Age propaganda and wanting to join hands with the pagan religions fostered by Nimrod's Babylonian mystery religion. There is not much space in this book, as with all topics I've gone over, but this is an important one to understand. Again, scores of books can and have been written about every single topic in this book. It is up to you to do your own due diligence regarding what I've laid out here in these pages. The coming New World religion will be a modernized version of the Babylonian mystery religion, shrouded in pantheistic environmentalism. Remember, the Babylonian mystery religion is itself originally based on nature worship, with the deified King Nimrod originally represented as the sun and Queen Semiramis represented as the moon. Quote, "Little by little, a planetary prayer book is thus being composed by an increasingly united humanity seeking its oneness. Once again, but this time on a universal scale, humankind is seeking no less than its reunion with divine, its transcendence into higher forms of life. Hindus call our earth Brahma, or God, for they rightly see no difference between our earth and the divine. This ancient simple truth is slowly dawning again upon humanity, as we are about to enter our cosmic age and become what we were always meant to be, the planet of God." Unquote. Robert Muller, former UN Assistant Secretary General, its number 2 most powerful position and devoted disciple of occultist Luciferian Alice Bailey. The proponents of the Great Plan are going to accomplish this largely through what you may have heard as the New Age movement, which is in itself the belief that man, through enlightenment gained by the various tenets of the New Age philosophies, can become a god unto him or herself. That's what the bottom line of the Great Plan has been all along. Man turning into a god himself, so he won't need the Creator God anymore, being able to live forever via the genetic engineering possible today. As a man or woman who is a member of the inner circle of the New World Order approaches the end of their life cycle, scientists working for the Great Plan occultist can take the DNA and clone that person a la a test tube baby, and through supernatural black magic rituals can, I believe, that they believe this, conjure the soul of one that has passed away into the newly cloned, much younger body. This is obviously conjecture on my part, but this scenario seems logical to me based on their intentions and actions about what they are trying to accomplish and the sum total of my research. With their thousands of years old occult practices paired with the 21st century technology, they are almost ready to eat from the tree of life and live forever as gods on earth. So, since the ball for the Luciferian one world government has been set into motion via the United Nations, it would only make sense for the religious counterpart to the one world government, the one world religion, to also be orchestrated through the United Nations. Well, it is, and a prime example of this is the occult-themed meditation prayer room housed inside the UN headquarters. In the early 1950s, Dag Hammarskjöld, the second Secretary General of the United Nations, spearheaded a campaign to create a prayer meditation room that would welcome all religions. He accomplished this with the help of the multi-faith Friends of the UN Meditation Room group. Quote, "The stone in the middle of the room has more to tell us. We may see it as an altar, empty not because there is no God, not because it is an altar to an unknown God, but because it is dedicated to the God whom man worships under many names and in many forms." Unquote. Dag Hammarskjöld commenting on the meaning of the altar in the middle of the UN's prayer room. The New Age spirituality promoted in the United Nations Meditation Room is the same as that promoted by many of the UN's religious influences. This includes the coming of a universal Christ to satisfy all religions. You now know the real identity of this coming universal Christ as the resurrected King Nimrod, also known as the Antichrist, since he was the one who originally spawned all pagan religions. He literally is their God. He will deceive all who know not the truth of the facts of his great plan, including naive Christians and Jews. The occult is based on the great plan and vice versa. Occultism originated in ancient Babylon under Nimrod and is based on the belief that man, through secret knowledge, can be elevated to God status. This is exactly what the New Age movement is all about. It is the occult coming out of the shadows and being manifested as the New Age one-world religion, whereby man is God. We are all gods unto ourselves. We already have the one-world government, economic, military systems in place. The New Age movement, which encompasses all religions, is the one-world religion. The New Age has what it calls the Christ, but this is not the Christ of the Gospels in the New Testament. In the New Age view, Jesus was but one of the many enlightened ones that include Buddha, Confucius, Muhammad, etc. It is this view that the New Agers want Christians to adopt. The Christ they will end up with will be the Antichrist or Nimrod. The true translation of Antichrist is not against Christ, but in the stead of Christ. When Nimrod makes his appearance on the world stage, he will claim that he is the real prophesied Christ, but in fact will be an impostor in the stead of Christ. The one religious group who has had more influence on the UN shaping and pushing of the one world religion is a unique religion we already went over, Madame Blavatsky's Theosophy. Keep in mind the spiritual leaders of the New Age movement, Blavatsky, Bailey, Pike, Crowley, and many others, admittedly wrote most of their books by automatic hand under the guidance of ascended masters, which you now know as malevolent interdimensional spirits. The agenda of Theosophy was and is today promoted through the United Nations by a group called Lucis Trust, and for a time Lucis Trust actually had their offices inside the UN building. The Lucis Trust is a non-profit organization originally incorporated in the United States in 1922 by Alice Bailey and her husband, 33rd degree alleged Freemason Foster Bailey, to act as a mechanism for the publishing of Alice Bailey's 24 automatic hand-penned occult books. Quote, "Is it not possible, from a contemplation of this side of Masonic teaching, that it may provide all that is necessary for the formulation of a universal religion?" Unquote. Foster Bailey, husband of Alice Bailey. Originally founded as the Lucifer Publishing Company in the early 1920s, the name was changed to better hide their true intent in 1925 to the Lucis Publishing Company. Here is a quote directly from the Lucis Trust website explaining why they changed the original name. Quote, "There are comments on the World Wide Web claiming that the Lucis Trust was once called the Lucifer Trust. Such was never the case. However, for a brief period of 2 or 3 years in the early 1920s, when Alice and Foster Bailey were beginning to publish the books published under her name, they named their fledgling publishing company Lucifer Publishing Company. By 1925, the name was changed to Lucis Publishing Company and has remained so ever since. Both Lucifer and Lucis came from the same word root, Lucis being the Latin generative case meaning of light. The Baileys' reasons for choosing the original name are not known to us, but we can only surmise that they, like the great teacher H.P. Blavatsky, for whom they had enormous respect, sought to elicit a deeper understanding of the sacrifice made by Lucifer. Alice and Foster Bailey were serious students and teachers of Theosophy, a spiritual tradition which views Lucifer as one of the solar angels, those advanced beings who Theosophy says descended, thus the fall, from Venus to our planet eons ago, to bring the principle of mind to what was then animal man. In the theosophical perspective, the descent of these solar angels was not a fall into sin or disgrace, but rather an act of great sacrifice, as is suggested in the name Lucifer, which means light-bearer, unquote. Now, I could ramble on for pages about Lucis Trust and their endeavors such as world goodwill, but we'll quote again directly from the Lucis Trust website below to get the point. Quote, "World goodwill is an activity of the Lucis Trust, which is on the roster of the United Nations Economic and Social Council. World Goodwill is an accredited NGO with the Department of Public Information of the United Nations. To support the work of the United Nations and its specialized agencies as the best hope for a united and peaceful world," unquote. On the Purposes and Objectives section on the World Goodwill's website, it states that the World Goodwill has three main purposes: to help mobilize the energy of goodwill, to cooperate in the work of preparation for the appearance of the Christ, and to educate public opinion on the causes of the major world problems and to help create the thought form of solution. Notice that they say the Christ and not Christ or Jesus Christ. The appearance of their Christ refers to the reappearance of the man who was, then was not, and will be again, King Nimrod. Quote, "The beast which you saw once was, now is, not, and will come up out of the abyss and go to his destruction. The inhabitants of the earth, whose names have not been written in the book of life from the creation of the world, will be astonished when they see the beast, because he once was, now is not, and yet will come," unquote. Book of Revelation, chapter 17, verse 8, NIV. It is the environmental faction of Great Plan globalists that are also the ones throwing the most weight behind pushing this new religion, as evidenced by these quotes. Quote, "It is the responsibility of each human being today to choose between the force of darkness and the force of light. We must therefore transform our attitudes and adopt a renewed respect for the superior laws of divine nature," unquote. Maurice Strong, wealthy elitist, occultist backer of the Great Plan, and high-ranking member behind the UN global government. Quote, "Nature is my God. To me, nature is sacred. Trees are my temples and forests are my cathedrals," unquote. Mikhail Gorbachev, communist and former leader of the USSR, one of the upstanding contributors to the fulfillment of the Great Plan achieved through his leadership position in the Green Movement. Quote, "My great personal dream is to forge a tremendous alliance between all religions and spiritual groups and the United Nations. We desperately need a United Religions organization to bring reconciliation, unity, and peace to all peoples of our world," unquote. Robert Muller, again, former UN Assistant Secretary General. Muller was also the co-chairman of the World Commission for Global Consciousness and Spirituality, and the co-chairman, alongside Mikhail Gorbachev, of the World Wisdom Council. Muller was also active in organizing 1993's Parliament of World Religions meeting in Chicago, an attempt to further corral the religions of the world into a groupthink mentality. The conference hosted more than 8,000 representatives from 150 different religious and spiritual groups around the world. Robert Muller's speech, which received a prolonged standing ovation, was entitled "A Proposal to Establish a United Nations of Religion." His proposal was endorsed in the Parliament of World Religions joint communique. Quote, "Our earth cannot be changed unless in the not-too-distant future an alteration in the consciousness of individuals is achieved. This has already been seen in areas such as war and peace or economy and ecology, and it is precisely for this alteration in inner orientation, in the entire mentality, in the heart, that religion bear responsibility in a special way. Religion must be a unifier and peacemaker, not a cause for violence and separation." Unquote. The Parliament of World Religions led to interfaith dialogue initiatives by many religious groups, including the Vatican, no surprise there, right? And other Great Plan-inspired organizations such as the United Nations, the Gorbachev Foundation, the Clinton Global Initiative, and many other UN-associated non-governmental organizations, or NGOs as they are referred to at the UN. All NGO means is that they are private organizations with private funding and private agendas that you aren't privy to, since they are non-governmental and private, and you are only told about them what you're supposed to know and not the backroom dealings that regularly go on to formulate their agenda. The biggest success for the occultists to come out of the Parliament of World Religions was something called the United Religions Initiative, which was proposed, again by the New Age guru Robert Muller. The URI's stated goals are unity among religions and manifesting love for the earth, which hopefully by now you recognize as a smokescreen for takeover of the world's religions in preparation of the Antichrist. Working closely with Muller on the plan to unite all religions is an Anglican bishop named William Swing of Grace Episcopal Cathedral in San Francisco. Although Robert Muller is the brains behind URI, Bishop Swing was put in charge as a figurehead and spokesperson of this New Age organization. The URI is and always has been a United Nations steered project, and therefore just another component of the Great Plan agenda. Bishop Swing stated how Muller had contacted him in 1993 about becoming involved with the founding of the URI. Quote, 3.5 years ago, a telephone call arrived in San Francisco from the United Nations asking if we, at Grace Cathedral, would host a great interfaith worship service honoring the 50th anniversary of the signing of the UN Charter in our city. Unquote. This request, along with further dialogue with Muller, is allegedly what prompted Swing to become involved in the United Religions Initiative. Swing later stated, quote, "I got out of bed the next day determined to commit the rest of my life to an initiative that would create a United Religions which would, in appropriately spiritual ways, parallel the United Nations." Unquote. Reverend James Davis, an Anglican minister from New York, stated, quote, "We've never seen any organization build coalitions as quickly or as successfully as the United Religions Initiative." Unquote. Houston Smith, a scholar of various differing religions and author of The World's Religions, described the URI as, quote, "by far the most significant global interfaith effort." Unquote. The URI claims that more than 1,000 religious groups, representing 600 million people, have endorsed the URI Charter. These include the Vatican and the current leader of Buddhism, the Dalai Lama. The preamble to the URI Charter is as follows.
Order filled.
We, people of diverse religions and spiritual expressions and indigenous traditions throughout the world, hereby establish the United Religions Initiative to promote enduring, daily interfaith cooperation, to end religiously motivated violence, and to create cultures of peace, justice, and healing for the earth and all living beings. We respect the uniqueness of each tradition and differences of practice or belief. We value voices that respect others and believe that sharing our values and wisdom can lead us to act for the good of all. We believe that our religious spiritual lives, rather than dividing us, guide us to build community and respect for one another. Therefore, as interdependent people rooted in our traditions, we now unite for the benefit of our Earth community. We unite to build cultures of peace and justice. We unite to heal and protect the Earth. We unite to build safe places for conflict resolution, healing, and reconciliation. We unite to support freedom of religion and spiritual expression, and the rights of all individuals and peoples as set forth in international law. We unite in responsible cooperative action to bring the wisdom and values of our religions, spiritual expressions, and indigenous traditions to bear on the economic, environmental, political, and social challenges facing our Earth community. We unite to provide a global opportunity for participation by all people, especially by those whose voices are not often heard. We unite to celebrate the joy of blessings and the light of wisdom in both movement and stillness. We unite to use our combined resources only for nonviolent, compassionate action, to awaken to our deepest truths, and to manifest love and justice among all life in our Earth community. It goes on to say, the root of this ecological crisis is a spiritual crisis. Just as the religions and spiritual traditions of the world teach respectful interaction with a sacred whole, so must spiritual values and moral imperatives help humanity to rediscover a reverence for all life and respect for the sacredness of the whole of planet Earth. Therefore, we call for interfaith cooperation in furthering this vision for love and protection of the Earth, reverence for life, and harmony with all living beings. According to Bishop Swing, the URI is intended to be to religion what the United Nations is to global politics, unifying the world's religions as the United Nations is unifying the world's nations. Swing confirmed these plans. Quote, the URI will be a spiritual United Nations, and what better place to give it birth than the Bay Area, which gave birth to the present United Nations, unquote. Bishop Swing also states, quote, the URI will offer the world a powerful new vision of hope, the vision that the deepest stories we know can now cease to be causes of separation between people, and become instead the foundation for a reunited humanity. Religions need the URI. Bombs are exploding in the name of God in cities throughout the world. Religious persecution is more prevalent now than ever before. Religious extremists are demanding and obtaining nuclear weapons, and still there is no neutral arena where all the religions can engage each other. The URI, in time, aspires to have the visibility and stature of the United Nations. It will have global visibility and will be a vital presence in local communities all over the world, unquote. The United Nations has granted the URI official liaison status, which means that in return for UN financial support, the URI will cooperate closely with the United Nations and its organizations to complement the UN's political, diplomatic, and social mandates, influence UN policy, and support its programs. Quote, "We stand on the threshold of a new world order that may be defined either by an increasing polarization that fuels a spiral of escalating conflict and violence, or by growing global cooperation that calls the human race to work across national, ethnic, and religious boundaries to serve a larger global good." Unquote. Bishop William Swing. Bishop Swing recently made a public apology for 2,000 years of Christian evangelism. His apology included regret for, quote, "proclaiming that Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior of all and for seeking to make the whole world Christian," unquote. These are not the words of a true Christian, but of a New Ager. The URI's goal is for a New Age spirituality that would unify the planet a la the United Nations. The URI is the tip of the spearhead of the one world religion right now. The final form of this New Age spirituality will be a green, naturalistic, humanistic religion with its roots in the Great Plan Babylonian mystery religion. Anyone who refuses to accept this new spirituality will be labeled an intolerant radical fundamentalist or even a terrorist, as things are progressing down the road to a police state in America these days. Quote, "The greatest hope for the earth lies in religionists and scientists uniting to awaken the world to its near fatal predicament, and then leading mankind out of the bewildering maze of international crisis into the future utopia of humanist hope." Unquote. Club of Rome, Goals for Mankind. Quote, "What an incredible planet in the universe this will be, when we will be one human family living in justice, peace, love, and harmony with our divine earth, with each other, and with the heavens." Unquote. Robert Muller, UN Assistant Secretary General. Quote, "The spiritual sense of our place in nature can be traced to the origins of human civilization. The last vestige of organized goddess worship was eliminated by Christianity." Unquote. Al Gore, Earth in the Balance. And I'm going to read that last quote. That's the end of this chapter. I'm going to read that last quote one more time by Al Gore. Quote, "The spiritual sense of our place in nature can be traced to the origins of human civilization. The last vestige of organized goddess worship was eliminated by Christianity." Unquote. And like I said, that was Al Gore from his book, Earth in the Balance. Okay, like I said, that's the end of that chapter. And, people will assume then that quote-unquote Christian is probably against nature or the earth or whatever if they disagree with the philosophy or the theology that's being taught here. And that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's very far from the truth. I mean, I think the earth is just a completely amazing, and nature is completely amazing. I mean, it's just wonder after wonder. I hate to see any of it damaged or hurt, destroyed. And when you get down to the root of it, most of the destruction always comes at the hand of these globalists who are up there preaching that we must all, save the earth and unite. These mega corporations are, at the top, include most of these people that are involved in what we're reading about here. So, anyway, I'm just trying to say that just because someone is against this one world religion doesn't mean that they're necessarily for the destruction of the earth or have no concern for it or for nature. It's just a really conundrum, almost. All right, so that's the end of that one, and so next time we're going to pick up with Chapter 11. 9/11 was an inside job, so look forward to talking to you then.
So the New Age, like the Masons, feel that Christianity is the enemy, a force to be countered, not by open debate, but by contempt and ridicule, and as shall be illustrated later, by even murder. And remember, the source of the New Age movement is the Order of the Freemasons. Other parties wish to join the debate. In 1911, the Socialist Party of Great Britain published a pamphlet entitled Socialism in Religion, in which they placed their position about religion into the arena. Quote, "It is therefore a profound truth that socialism is the natural enemy of religion. A Christian socialist is in fact an anti-socialist. Christianity is the antithesis of socialism." Unquote. So the socialists, the New Ager, and the Masons have declared war on the Christians. And as in every war, the enemy must be defeated even by bloodshed if necessary. This war has deep roots in history, and I will cover those roots so that you will understand it perfectly where this came from. This war is no different. Bloodshed is anticipated by all parties in the battle. Lavetti Lafferty and Bud Hollowell, two New Agers, started the discussion about how their religion sanctions the use of violence against the Christian community. They wrote the following in their book entitled The Eternal Dance, quote, "This is a time of opportunity for those who will take it," apparently meaning the New Agers, the initiates of the mystery religions, socialists. For others, apparently the Christians, if the earth is unsuitable for them, if they will not accept the New Age religion, they will go on to other worlds, unquote, which simply means they will be exterminated. You better listen to me, folks. I am a messenger, and my message is unmistakable, and it had better not fall upon deaf ears, for those deaf ears will be rendered dead in the coming New World Order. You see, they have made incredible admissions, but none of you are looking, none of you are reading, none of you are absorbing. In fact, most of you are so stupid that you think that the only thing you should read is what you personally believe in or agree with. How can you exist in this world ignorant of the opinions and the writings and the thoughts of everyone else, including your enemies? The words reveal an incredible scenario. You see, these people in the third world nations are going to be entirely replaced by what they call, quote, a new root race, unquote. That eventuality will not be a tragedy. Quote, John Randolph Price was told by his spirit guide that up to 2.5 billion might perish in the coming chaos, unquote. Another estimate of the number required to die because they will not accept the new religion was offered by the so-called Tibetan master, Wall Cool, who has said in one of his channeling experiences that 1/3 of all humanity must die. Some of the believers claim that they have the ability to call forth the deceased spirit of someone who lived many years before. Quite often, these spirits claim to be the ascended masters, those who have gone on to discover the eternal truths of all creation. One such believer who claimed to be in touch with a master was Alice Bailey, previously mentioned. Her spirit called himself Wall Cool, and she claimed he spoke through her saying, quote, "Death is not a disaster to be feared. The work of the destroyer is not really cruel or undesirable. Therefore, there is much destruction permitted by the custodians of the plan, and much evil turned into good," unquote. Now, just what the plan constituted was told to the world by Benjamin Krim, another New Age leader. He placed an advertisement in about 20 newspapers all over the world on April the 25th, 1982, that defined the term. The ad read in part, quote, "What is the plan? It includes the installation of a new world government and new world religion under Maitreya, unquote. But perhaps the most startling example of the teachings of this new religion came from the pen of Barbara Marx Hubbard, one of their most articulate writers, and she wrote in her book entitled Happy Birthday, Planet Earth, quote, "The choice is, do you wish to become a natural Christ, a universal human, or do you wish to die? People will either change or die. That is the choice," unquote. The battle lines are drawn. Choices will have to be made. I have made my choice. What is yours? What is yours? What is yours? What is yours?